So first off, why do we want to do an all-wheel steering delete? One thing might be your lines are leaking. These cars are old, starting to get rusty, and they're expensive to replace and kind of a pain, as well as it'll save about 30 pounds between the pump and all the lines and the arm, the actual like rear steering rack, so to speak, that and out. So it just cleans things up in the back. But I'm just going to walk you through. The video
kind of jumps around, but it's just going to show you everything that you need to disconnect before dropping the subframe, how to install the new arms onto your rear subframe, and it doesn't show the install, but it's pretty much the reverse, and I'll get through all the components, so you'll be good to go.
If you're a law-abiding citizen, this probably looks different. I got a test pipe where you would have your cat. Basically, I'm going to unbolt it right here and then just work my way back and drop this exhaust out. Alright, so you see here I got a couple of jack stands that are going to support the exhaust as I take off these final clips. I got a wood block down there, so it'll be supported, and I'm just going to slowly lower it down to the floor. Just showing some locations for some of the muffler supports, exhaust supports. And when you put these, for example, back on, like the one you're seeing right here, just grease them up. It'll slide on a lot smoother and make the installation a lot easier. Now that I got the exhaust out, I got some room to work with, and I'm going to go in under the console, disconnect the emergency brake, but before I do so, I'm going to hit both of the lower strut mount bolts with a little bit of PV blaster, so they'll be easier to remove once we get to them. Now that we got the exhaust out of the way, we got some room to work with. I'm going to hit the lower strut mount bolts with some PV blaster, as well as where the drive shaft bolts up to the rear end here. Okay, you'll understand what you're looking at, but basically the right rear brake for your e-brake, left rear brake's right over here. But basically, just like kind of the way the throttle body works, this wire needs to come up into the side to allow this pin to drop down and out. So we need to loosen it. So all you're going to do is just like with a box wrench, come in here and turn this. Sorry, I had the wrong one on there. 10 millimeter, and as you loosen this, it's going to allow this to retract. It's going to give you slack on the e-brake, and you'll be able to slide those out. So that's the process for that. This is where the e-brake cables are located. You just take the center console out, and then there's this metal panel that you see right here, and there's 2 bolts that need to come out on the bottom left and bottom right side, and 2 screws on the top. But once that's gone, it's easy access. Try to get a shot of me removing one. So now that I have this loosened all the way almost, I can watch the camera. I'm going to turn it, and then see it start to drop. There. That's disconnected, and that's going to be pushed back down through the floor. So here you can see real clearly. It turns 90, and then turns 90, and then pushes out. Alright, so the cables are disconnected, and we're going to pull them down and through. As far as breaking the bolts loose on the drive shaft, best way is you get a box wrench, put it on this side, and it'll hit up against this bracket, so then all you're doing is pushing down on your breaker bar. You're not having to work with both sides. And you got a 14mm on this side, and I got a 12mm on this side. Apologize for shaky camera, it's tough to film under here, but basically I got this bolt broke loose, so in order to rotate the drive shaft, I get the next one up here, and I can just push within neutral, and you can see it's rotating. It's just tough to do in an awkward spot. But then get this one around to here so you can grab the next one. You know, you want this over here so you can keep rotating around, because if you get to a loose bolt, you won't really be able to rotate this. Just grab the drive shaft and rotate it. It's easy enough. Don't listen to me. Forgot to film disconnecting the carrier bearings, but basically it's 2 bolts on either side, and just make sure you remember how the bushings go back in. That's what you're seeing right here. So, already got the bolt out. Now, you can just pry with a big pry bar off of here and the strut to pop it out. There you go. Same thing on the other side. Okay, I'm actually glad this happened so I could show you guys how to do this. It's also going to be a forced upgrade sort of, because this bushing is going to get destroyed. But you can try to pry here, but if the rubber bushing gets frozen to this stud here, you need a puller. And found this from Stealth 316, so I give him credit. But just a 2-jaw puller, you can rent it from AutoZone for $30, and then when you return it, you'll get all your money back. So that's the best way if you're not going to be using this too often. So we're just going to go ahead and start pulling. And to protect the threads, you don't want to put this down into the hole, because if this is too thick, it'll really tear up the threads and press on them, so you won't be able to put the bolt back in. So I put this socket here, and it's just pushing on that. Alright, this is much more accurate to how me and cars get along. So you saw 2 things happen there. One, it just popped off of here, it just scored the metal and ripped it right off. And it was putting so much force. I was using a, what is it, quarter drive, and it pushed through and welded itself in there. So I'm going to have to find a way to make this look presentable to give back to AutoZone. But right now, I'm going to go ahead and try to burn this bushing out. So just with any type of torch. Alright, this is like take 3. I got another torch on here. This might be the last thing I do on the car, so I'm probably going to kill myself. Hoping filming like this will help you see kind of where the lines are at. as you come under view, it's the two that shoot off to the left when you're coming from the back of the car. And if yours are anything like mine, these are the type that unscrew, kind of like the way the brake lines are hooked up. You will not be able to unscrew them. I cut the hose on the one and just bent it till the line broke. I mean, they're so rusted, it's kind of shot. But if you can unscrew it, it'd be nice, and you can post it up, because there are people who like the car to be completely OEM, and as you know it, these rear steering lines are crazy expensive if you're trying to replace them. So now you can see draining the steering fluid. These are the two lines on the driver's side.
And the Pampina kit comes with brass plugs, so you see I put some Teflon on them, and you're seeing the two spots I need to plug in. Basically it's the supply on the rack and the I think it's return. Basically there's two, you'll see where the lines end up going.
Okay, some of you might already know this, but for disconnecting the brake lines, first thing you want to do is loosen this bolt right here, and you can use a box wrench, but I found it better if I can apply pressure and squeeze, because it was so rusted that it just was going to break loose. You know, it's going to strip it. So this one's already loose. Basically just loosen this all the way. Okay. So now I can lift this up. Really, just leave it there. You don't want to bend it, but just make sure it's disconnected. Now, this little tab here, it pulls out. So basically this is being held up in this shaft by this tab. So this kind of wiggles free. Now, I'd like to get this out of the way and put your finger over top of that so nothing gets down in there. There you go. And now you're clear to clear the brakes there anyway. Ooh. Try not to get brake fluid on the rubber lines. It eats away its shit.
So now you've seen pretty much everything that needs to be disconnected. So now just the four main bolts for the actual subframe, which I'm showing here. This one has the main one, and there's also a bracket that goes to the front. And you'll see when you're laying under there, it's basically the four corners you got to get undone. And obviously make sure you're supporting it when you do this.
So basically, once you have the subframe dropped, you're just taking off all the power steering components. So this is an actual arm. It's almost like a steering rack that either pushes the trailing arm right or left, depending which way you have the wheel turned. And also when you get in alignment, if you have all-wheel steering, explain to them that they have to disconnect this tie rod end right here when they do the toe adjustment, because since it's locked together, they'll get the one side set, and when they go to adjust the other side, it's going to pull the other wheel out of alignment. Alright, so basically, nothing's really salvageable on mine, so I've just been cutting through the lines and bending them off. But this is the actual pump that sits on top of the rear differential, and there's just one screw right here you'll see that you take out, and once that's out, you can knock this around and it's going to come up and out, and basically that's where the plug goes that you get with your kit. And once you can get, knock it back and forth so it's loose like this, and then you can't really pry on it, because what it's going to do is it's going to come at an angle and you need to lift straight up and out. So you just wiggle it and pull up. There you go. And basically this pump, I guess, is driven off the rear differential in that little gear. So it might be a good time to change your fluid in there, but I'm going to put the plug on now because I'm going to be running a grinder and I don't want any rust getting in there. So make sure you have that plug handy to get onto there right away. So now we're going to put, and again, this is the Pampina kit. I said IPS earlier, but it's Pampina kit. And you're going to put sealant around the edge of this plug, this freeze plug, and then we're just going to drive it into that hole. So just like that. Rest it on that hole, square. And then, just with a socket, slowly drive it in square until the top is all flush. So basically this side is going to thread right into this hole here, or this one. I know they talk about which one to use, and I'm pretty sure he said it doesn't matter, either one is fine. It's just it's going to thread into one of those holes. I'm trying to think if there's any logical reason to use one or the other, but probably doesn't matter. On this side I already drilled it out, but you'll notice now this bolt can fit through here. You need a 1/2 inch drill bit. So on this side it's not drilled yet. See how it doesn't fit? It's because they're using grade 8 hardware, and just has to do with the size of the bolt that they want to use isn't going to fit through that hole without drilling it out. So basically just any drill, 1/2 inch drill bit, and just a little bit of something to lubricate it, and you can drill right through it. And I usually start in reverse when I do this, and it just makes the edge a little smoother. If you start on forward right away, a lot of times it'll grab and rip right out of the chock. So now you'll see it's going to fit right in. That's that.
And I actually did a bit of restoration to my subframe, as you can see here, and I filled the bushings as well. But for reinstallation, obviously it's just the reverse, and what I suggest doing is I actually lowered the car all the way down on the rear end and had the subframe just on the ground. Some people, if they have a concrete floor, will put the subframe on a jack and then wheel it under and jack it up to it, but whatever method works best for you, and good luck.